What's going on, everyone? Bran here, about to give you the bloody breakdown, my own personal review of X. In 1979, a group of young filmmakers set out to make an adult film in rural Texas, but when their reclusive elderly hosts catch them in the act, the cast find themselves fighting for their lives. That's the plot of the film we're talking about today, the brand new film by Ti West. Of course, we're talking about X. So, speaking of Ti West, let's go ahead and jump right in because, of course, this film is written and directed by Ti West, who you may remember from The House of the Devil, The Sacrament, Cabin Fever 2, Spring Fever. I will say right out of the gate here, full disclosure, I do feel like this is probably, in my opinion, Ti West's best film. So, in the film we have Mia Goth as Maxine and another character. I won't give away any spoilers in this, but I will say one thing. Very convincing. Had me trying to figure out if she was who I thought she was. But of course you'll remember her from the Suspiria remake back in 2018, A Cure for Wellness. Also starring is Jenna Ortega as Lorraine, who she's really stepping into some Scream Queen territory right now, if I do say so myself. You'll remember years ago she was in Insidious Chapter 2, and more recently she was in Scream 5 and Studio 666. So yeah, she's definitely stepping into that territory, to say the least. Also, we have Martin Henderson as Wayne, who, by the way, Martin Henderson is doing his absolute best Matthew McConaughey impersonation throughout this entire film, and I'm here for it. It is spectacular. You'll probably remember him from The Ring, Strangers Pray at Night. I think he was the dad in that movie. Also, it was kind of cool to see Kid Cudi in this thing. I think I saw him recently in Don't Look Up, as a matter of fact, and that was kind of my first revelation that he had started more acting. So it was cool to see him in this. I think he actually serves as the executive producer in this movie as well. And last but not least, Brittany Snow as Bobby Lynn. She's fantastic as usual. Prom Night remake, I think in 2008. Would You Rather, another film she did, which is massively underrated. That's a fantastic movie. So before we dive in here and actually get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, I would like to say, full disclosure, this is an A24 film. I know a lot of people have their reservations or excitement about that. Just to get it out here, full disclosure, I kind of feel like A24 is completely hit or miss. I liked Tusk. I thought it was interesting and different. I liked Hereditary, Midsommar. Did not like The Lighthouse or The Witch. Honestly, it could just be maybe I'm not a fan of Robert Eggers. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know, but I'll digress. So this thing is a classic 70s, 80s style slasher, but of course this is A24, so with a quote-unquote elevated take. Which, yeah, I do kind of have some umbrage with that term. I kind of feel like horror has had its fair share of artistic and stylistic films way before the term, or A24 for that matter, was even a thing. There have been those out there, but I will say that, it is that quote elevated style, so that artistic, stylistic, thematic undertones that are present in other slashers, even to be more specific, they are of course brought to the forefront here, as you kind of would expect. So I'll say, speaking of that, the film, wonderful cinematography. There's one shot that comes to mind in particular where, obviously I don't want to get into spoilers here, so I won't say exactly what's happening, but there's like an aerial shot, like an overhead shot of like a lake or smaller body of water. I don't know. I know I have people in the comments saying it wasn't a lake, it was a whatever. So just get ahead of that. But the shot in and of itself, given just looking at the shot, is very beautiful shot. But at the same time, it's a very tense scene. So I do kind of appreciate some of the smaller things like that, like a beautifully shot but tense scene. A+ sound design, most definitely. one of the things I bragged on this film the absolute most about after I saw it was the sound design that we got out of this thing. Now, I will tell you, it's a slow burner. This film is indeed a slow burn, but it is not boring. I'll say that. How could it be? There's they're making a porn in this film. There's so much TNA in it. How could it be boring, right? I'll say it takes... I don't think the first murder, the first kill of the film happens until about halfway in. But in the meantime, there is some lovely character dialogue going on. There's one really cool scene where everyone's kind of giving their opinion and speaking about, the morality of pornography and things of that nature. It's like, it's believable dialogue, and even for some reason at times thought-provoking dialogue, which is very interesting. I'll say that's, whether a slasher film or a horror film in general has some type of message or is, has these undertones or, this artistic value, a lot of times they do, but they really don't give you these like impressive dialogue between characters. And that's one thing that I see in here that does make it stand out and kind of, I guess, earn that title of being quote unquote elevated. Also, I will say the atmosphere in this movie is very creepy, eerie, tense. Job well done for a slasher flick. You'll notice that Ty West will linger on shots. It's a very effective way to build tension. It's a well-made film. It looks great, sounds great, the performances are all fine. But I will also say that I have seen more enjoyable and interesting slasher flicks with far lower standards. I'll just go ahead and throw that one out there. And, maybe that's the discussion for another day to kind of get into. But I'll say, as most films these days are, I think you'll probably see some division amongst the horror community, amongst the, cinematic community, to be a little bit more wide here. I think that some people will see and appreciate the artistic value that this movie has, and I think that you'll also have some people that will say that it is, in many ways, the antithesis to what they love about the subgenre. My only concern is that this movie struggles to find an audience because of that potential conflict. But it's good, and more importantly, it's a new slasher. It's what everyone... there's so much of this fan base of slashers that have been begging for something new, not a remake, not a reboot, not a sequel, not a requel. We can go on all day, but something new. And it is that. It is indeed something new and a fresh slasher. And speaking of slasher, it does have a killer that, in at least in my opinion, what I've seen, this killer definitely exists outside of modern norms. So you can't say this thing is really unoriginal, at least not in my book. And interesting little side note here before I wrap this thing up is that when this movie was filming, when X was filming, a prequel was shot alongside it, and now is going to be released. So that's very interesting that, I'm sitting here talking about a new slasher, how all the old franchises have, had crazy amount of sequels at this point in time. And now we hear about a prequel that was made alongside this new slasher potential franchise. I mean, could it be? Could it be? I mean, there are even talks of this thing being a trilogy as we speak. So it could be that this is the beginning of a new slasher franchise. Who knows? But overall, I enjoyed this thing. I'd give it 3 out of 5 scars. Check it out definitely this week or this weekend if you've got some time to kill or you just want to go see a movie. I'd suggest it. Go check it out. It gives you the elevated, quote-unquote, elevated take on slasher films. But honestly, it is a good time. So yeah, I guess that's going to be about it. Let me know what you all think down below. Keep it spoiler free in the comment section. What did you all think about X? And while you're there, subscribe and turn on notifications. You'll never miss one of my videos. At least that is if YouTube does what it's supposed to do and sends you that nifty little notification, which is the whole reason you're hitting the bell. But you know what? Things happen. So yeah, like the video if you've enjoyed it. Check the description section. There's a link to my Twitter account. And there's also a link to support the channel further if that's something you would be interested in. So, with that said, I'm Bran, and you've just got the Bloody Breakdown on X.